Hello historians. It's a windy day out here. I am at the Great Bridge Locks Park in the Great Bridge section of Chesapeake, and right behind me over here are the locks themselves. If you don't know what locks are when two bodies of water, two like rivers or canals, they come together and they're not at the same level. So the locks, basically there's a chamber between them with gates on the front and on the back. And so when there is a different level of water, your boat comes into the lock filled up to just the right level. And then to change the level, they'll either empty the water out to lower you down or raise the water up to raise you up to get out onto the right level. So you can sail on through into another body of water without taking your boat out and putting it back in on the other side. It allows you to go straight on through. They're great parts of a waterway, so that it does make it convenient for people to be able to just go right on through. So also you can see the water behind me. This is the Chesapeake and Albemarle Canal, and at one end we have the locks, and there are boats coming through the locks right now. It's super windy and super sunny, so it's a little hard for me to see, and I hope the wind isn't bothering your hearing the video. But if we look back over this way, it's the Great Bridge Bridge, which if you've been watching any of these videos, you know that that's where the Battle of Great Bridge was in the Revolutionary War. And so this is where the park is. And so what I'm really going to talk about is not by the park here or the locks. We're going to actually talk about this body of water. This body of water is called the Chesapeake and Albemarle Canal, and it consists of a sea level water connection between the Chesapeake Bay and the Albemarle Sound down in North Carolina, because I'm in Virginia right now. And a guy named William Byrd II recognized back in 1728 that a canal could close the short gap between the North Landing River and the Elizabeth River. So up here on the other side of this lock is the Elizabeth River, the southern branch of the Elizabeth River, a major river here in southeastern Virginia. And so if they could connect the North Landing River and the Elizabeth River, it would allow boats to carry freight and passengers between the Currituck Sound in North Carolina and the Chesapeake Bay in Virginia. The Virginia General Assembly first actually considered this route for a canal proposal back in 1772. So long ago, this idea was out here that this could be like this. And so this canal actually has the distinction of being one of the earliest of all American canals suggested. And actually it was surveyed and mapped in 1772. The construction of the canal didn't begin actually until a lot later in 1850, when technology had advanced. The world had become steam powered, and that allowed them to have steam power to operate mechanical dredges, which would dig out the bottom of the canal. And before this canal, the two states cooperated, North Carolina and Virginia, to build the Dismal Swamp Canal. Perhaps you have seen that video already, and that opened in 1805. So the legislatures in both Virginia and North Carolina passed bills authorizing a North Landing River, Elizabeth River Canal 10 different times in their state legislatures before it finally could be constructed. So in 1850, the Great Bridge Lumber and Canal Company was chartered by Virginia to build this proposed canal connecting the North Landing and Elizabeth Rivers. The company merged with a North Carolina company with similar plans, and the whole project was renamed the Albemarle and Chesapeake Canal, and so the company was named the Albemarle and Chesapeake Canal Company. A businessman in Norfolk by the name of Marshall Parks was a huge advocate for the new canal because his father had been a manager on the Dismal Swamp Canal, and he saw how beneficial it was. He also knew that canal had some shortcomings, and the Albemarle and Chesapeake Canal would be significantly deeper, and that would allow larger steam-powered ships to pass through it. Dismal Swamp Canal. It was too shallow. And it would only have this one set of locks here. No more locks anywhere along the whole canal. And that's a great deal for anyone shipping or boating, because back in the day, the Dismal Swamp Canal had 7 locks. Now, the only problem with having a lock to change the water level for your boat to be able to pass on to the next body of water is that you have to wait for it. You have to wait for it. If there are any boats coming the other way and they're in the lock, you have to wait for them. You have to wait for the lock to fill or empty to the right level. You have to go in the lock and then wait for it to fill or empty and before you can sail through it. So those 7 locks were a lot of delay when you traveled that way. They actually considered 2 routes to connect to the North Landing River. The company first considered cutting a ditch between the eastern branch of the Elizabeth River down where, if you live in Chesapeake, you know where Kempsville Road is. And that was where Kempsville runs was where they were thinking of putting it. But then this alternative route between the southern branch of the Elizabeth River and North Landing River was chosen. So the construction was authorized by both North Carolina and Virginia legislatures in 1854, and the project was funded at $1 million. That's a lot of money back in 1854. So 50 years before this canal was built, the Great Dismal Swamp Canal had been dug by hand with shovels. But now, using steam power, they have newly invented steam dredges. And the dredges are like kind of like a hand that would go down into the bottom of the canal, and it would close up like the jaws, and it would lift things out. And since it was steam powered, it was much faster than anything could be done human powered. And so they called them the Iron Titans, and there were 9 of them that were used to cut through things like massive stumps and roots and buried logs and any other debris that was in the bottom of the river, or either of the rivers. And so it opened up in January of 1859, January 9th of 1859 to be specific. This waterway provided a link between North Carolina and Virginia and connected the Albemarle Sound with the Chesapeake Bay. The full canal was 75 miles long, but only 14 of those miles had to actually be cut through the land. The other parts of the canal are all natural channels and dredged out rivers. Interestingly, during the Civil War, the canal became part of the action as both sides blocked one end of the canal to prevent transit by the other side through the canal. But what they would do is they would sink ships at the end of each end of the canal to try and deter their enemies. After the war, the Civil War that is, commercial use increased, especially by steamship lines. For example, in 1892, a total of more than 7,700 vessels, which included 4,000 steamships, used the waterway. The canal itself was private when it opened in 1859, and then in 1913, the operation was taken over by the federal government, specifically the Army Corps of Engineers. And today, as you can see, the canal is still in use. It's very busy with shipping and also used by many pleasure boaters, and it has become part of what is known as the Intracoastal Waterway. So what is the Intracoastal Waterway? The Intracoastal Waterway is a navigable water route. Take your boat a long way. It is toll-free, so it doesn't cost you anything, and it actually extends about 3,000 miles along the Atlantic Ocean all the way down the Atlantic seaboard. So as you go out here and you go out the North Landing River, you can continue south or north without actually going out into the Atlantic Ocean. You can always stay in canals, in rivers where you don't have to fear the more treacherous ocean water. Like the canal, the Intracoastal Waterway uses rivers and bays and sounds, lagoons, and also, of course, canals. And most of it is navigable by deep draft big and go deep into the water. The Atlantic part of the Intercoastal Waterway starts in Boston and goes down to Key West, Florida. The Gulf part of the Intercoastal Waterway serves ports for more than 1,000 miles between Appalachia, Florida, and Brownsville, Texas. The heaviest commercial activity is centered at New Orleans. A place called the Harvey Lock around New Orleans furnishes direct entrance into the Mississippi River. And another waterway directly west of New Orleans allows any boater or ship to get into the Mississippi River Valley system of inland waterways. The Mississippi River is in both the history of the United States, the history of many things, but it also is just important because water from the Mississippi, let me say that again, water in the Mississippi River comes from 31 different states. That's 31 out of the continental United States. Those states drain into and have access to the Mississippi River. So it's a huge shipping line. You can sail up and down. You can go from St. Louis down to New Orleans. You can go out from New Orleans out into the Gulf of Mexico. From the Gulf of Mexico, you can go out to the Atlantic Ocean. You can sail to Mexico down the coast of South America. So it provides a gateway to lots of places out of the southern United States. So once again, here we are, Great Bridge Locks Park in Chesapeake, Virginia, looking at the Chesapeake and Albemarle Canal. Just taking a quick look again at the locks here, and I don't know if you can see over there. You can just sort of see the, am I pointing the right way? I hope so. Yeah, you can see there's a big barge that is tied up here. And beyond that is the Great Bridge. So that's our virtual video for today, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.